on Elliott on?
No, and I don't have the clerk yet either, so we'll have to wait until they can get on here. So can we have one of them come in here and maybe?
Drain Commissioner is down in his office, so we've got an open seat.
I'm sorry?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So things got a little jumbled for today.
Okay.
We have Drain Commission first,
Yes.
followed by Health Department. I've notified the Health Department that their 8:45 start is gonna get pushed closer to 9 or even later.
Okay. Will they do it virtual?
Yes.
Okay.
And so my plan for the day is just watching the time clock and notifying the various departments of approximately when they should be ready to start.
Okay.
But I anticipate we're gonna run into just a few delays today.
But this order is still good?
The only one that's out of order is the very first one. Personnel is now Drain Commission.
Right, we already
Very
did.
live, good morning.
Here's Donnie. Good morning, Don.
Good morning, now we have 7, now we just need a clerk.
I got some. Is Diane covering today? Where'd she go?
She's covered part of it, Sharon's covered part of it, so Brian just went to get that to you.
Yes, somebody will
Um,
do it.
Okay.
Either have them in the room
All right, I'm
or
working on it now.
have them, give them
Sharon's trying to get her machine going, everybody can get back, so we're gonna give it a couple minutes.
Okay.
I like this pad of paper, and that with the two in front and something.
I'm sorry,
I like this.
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm trying really hard.
Yeah, I can get more of them if you need them, I think I got a couple.
Yeah, well, he came, he's going to that's what I just went right in on it.
Yeah, I figured you wanted something to write some notes on.
Yeah. But I like it, that it has that little heading.
Just so that everybody knows, on Zoom, we're waiting, the clerk was having some difficulties this morning, so we're waiting for the clerk to get on here before we begin.
Okay.
We are live on YouTube, so that part worked today. Yay.
I can't think of Drain Commissioners Chris.
Christopher Quattro.
Yes, and he's on here via Zoom.
Commissioner, I've taken a photo of this. I'll be communicating with City Hall right now.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we got an empty seat in this room. She can sit here.
Well, that's what I said, she could come in here and start if she needed to, but I think they're just trying to figure it out. I'm sorry.
Oh, how do we get into this one? I see the first thing says 2021 budget hearing presentation. That's not it.
It was attached to something Brian sent us yesterday at 10:42 a.m.
Thank you. 10:40. Oh, this is Monday. I'm not far
missed yesterday, what's 10:42? It's an attachment. Oh, get back to it.
Sharon is going to join us.
Good.
Now, this is September 15th, I need to see.
Well, then I think it's the same presentation from yesterday. They didn't update
Oh,
the date.
yeah. I should say it. So do I touch on those or just?
You can,
Okay.
you want to see the whole thing?
Okay.
I want to get to Zoom.
Yeah,
Good morning, Sharon.
Good morning. Where do you want? You want that chair right there? Okay. Yep.
One was the Zoom meeting set.
Yeah, the Zoom usually says the date, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The Zoom usually said, yeah, I resent it again last night with the schedule and, or the end of the day yesterday, schedule and the Zoom.
I'll send it to her right now.
Okay.
Can we go ahead though and get,
Yes.
is that okay?
Can we call the meeting to order, please?
The meeting is now come to order.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll do a roll
I'm still
call.
trying to get in.
Roll call, Sharon.
Chicory,
Here.
Curran,
Present on Zoom.
Freely. Freely,
She's there on Zoom.
Harrison,
Present on Zoom.
Hugo,
Present on Zoom.
Hinkleman,
She's not there.
Majerick,
He is not there.
Meeks,
Here.
Scott,
He is not there.
Ballrat,
Here.
Yarborough,
Present.
Elliott.
He is not there.
Madam Chair, we have 8 present, 4 absent.
Your first one this morning is the Drain Commissioner, and they're on Zoom. And then we'll be running a presentation from here. Christopher, go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll see what the first slide is.
I can't get to
That works.
today's.
Um,
Hold on a minute.
Madam Chair,
This is Tuesday.
You know, we didn't get to me.
it appears that the Wi-Fi is down in this room. That explains why.
Oh, that's why I couldn't do anything there.
So I've just checked the status of the Wi-Fi. That's why you're unable to access it. I'll contact the IS folks, let them know that you're having trouble, and we can progress.
Yeah,
If we have that, we can get to the Zoom.
I can get to it.
My machine can't connect to it either.
Okay, so
That
just look at
explains.
Just look at this right now.
Okay.
So, Dave, make sure that your volume is off.
Mine is muted.
Okay.
Mute this.
That's all.
All right. Christopher, is that correct? That you're okay with your slide?
Yeah, that's correct. I thought we just went into, I didn't realize we had a cover slide.
You want me to go back?
No, you're fine. I mean, I hope to be very quick. I mean, our budget doesn't really change much. We pretty much do the same thing. We continue to every year be under budget. We continue to work for that. You know, there are always some differences each year. Again, we've been continuing to do drain maintenance, and we have continued to do new projects, or we call them new projects or petition projects. I always like to say, in the tenure of my office, been in office, has been 3.5 years. I've saved the county taxpayers over $15 million on our petition projects. We have a couple that are moving forward. One is as you know, is South Water Elite, and that project alone, we had a savings of about $3 million in just smart design and smart management of the project. As going on for our budget, this is, gives you kind of just what we're looking to do, continue to do in the Drain Commission here. Let's go ahead and kind of move forward. We have been able to, our SES, or our soil erosion and sediment control, we're the CEA, we've been able to manage and administrate that very well. And Eagle now has been very happy with it. We work very close with them. So that program has been working very well. As you can.
Excuse me a minute, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can now, the room's on.
It goes.
I'd like to ask you to go back to the first part and let us see what the purpose is or what the, something we
Go
skipped
back.
over the first screen.
Okay.
Back.
Talk to us about what you're doing or what you want to do. That, yes, let's do this one. Please.
Oh, well, I mean, but just, yeah. The goal has been continue through our maintenance to get our drains flowing and keeping, handling any of the flooding that has been, has occurred or will occur. We're also being more aggressive on replacement of lines, some of the older lines. We're going in, we call major projects, where we'll actually go in and replace the line. We've done one out in, we completed one out in Eau Claire or Kirstead and Dewan. That was kind of an important project. The farmer had a field, he was about 30 acres that slowly over time, because of the water, he was unable to farm it. We were able to open that drain up, put a new drain line in. This is the first year he's been able to farm that 30 acres. We're now working on the Zest drain, another major project. We have some major flooding and the water has encroached to the point where the neighbors are having significant problems with around their houses. So we're looking at handling those existing lines and extending those existing lines. We're working on a project now in around Paw Paw Lake. It's on our Kelly drain. Where it rains, we have some houses that literally are in they're up away from the lake, but when it rains, they're like an island. Their house, and so we're working to try to relieve some of that water in those areas. So in our maintenance, we're continuing to push as much as we can through maintenance, working with the townships. That's one of the greater savings through what we call resolutions. And into our petitions, we have a number of petition projects going. I talked a little bit about the Southwater Volete. Another petition project that we're going to start working on is along the Grand Mere or North Lake, and working on the outlet there that continues to, because the rising lake levels continues to back up the water, particularly flooding and the chalets, and also backing up along Notre Dame Drive and and flooding the neighbors there. So that's going to be one of our ones we're going to be looking at and working very hard in the coming year to resolve that. So as we continue to work, our goal is to continue to try to keep the water balanced in Bering County, continue to do these projects at the lowest possible cost that can be done with the greatest value. We're not cutting quality. We're continuing to keep the best quality at the best reasonable price. So that's kind of what giving you. Hope that answers your question.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Christopher, I'm looking at your final opportunity, expand, test additional local contractors to drive competitiveness and add resources.
Yeah.
Are you bidding projects now?
Yeah, we've always bid projects. That's always been done. Okay. We keep track of our unit rates, so we know what the average cost to do certain things that we do on a regular basis. So we know when numbers come in, if they're above the average or below the average and where those are running. We're continuing to look for new contractors and continue to bring in competitiveness within our bidding process. The Zest drain, we actually was one of the first projects we started our online bidding, where the contractors, we put the projects out and they can actually submit their bids online, and then we can look at them there. The other one that was just done that way was the Southwater Volete, Yeah, South Water Leak Drain. So we're looking, we're moving into more of a technology to handle our bidding. Again, with the implementation, which should be towards the end of this year of our area prism, we're going to be able to have more reports that we can get out and show some of this stuff.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Continue, sir.
Go to your next slide, Christopher.
Yeah, go ahead. Well,
Okay.
this is just kind of the summary, and the other ones kind of show more of the detail, but just going through the top line, we'll just talk about the, the increases, because that's probably what's most important is, again, the personnel, that shows, a net change. Well, that's an annual increase. Those are numbers are always given us through financial services provide those. The next one is materials, supplies. That's going up because we have another, we're doing more work with our equipment, our own equipment now. That's the gas, particularly that's our gas for, running the equipment and running our trucks. We also have we have a full-time drain supervisor that is out handling the maintenance and keeping on top of our maintenance projects and inspecting before and after of those projects. So we're having additional cost in the gas, and that's what we determined for the budgeting of that. Number was the next one down, which is our purchases, services, and charges. Let's see, that's 3. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that mixed up. Gas for material supplies 3. Oh, that's 3. 2. Okay, I got my little notes here. All right, yeah, that additional is we're putting in more training. We have some more training dollars because we have to train 3 of our new employees in the SCS. That's a soil erosion sediment control. So they got to get their licensing from Eagle. We also have some additional training for MS projects and some other training for our employees. And the other part of that is NPDS, which includes training. And we've picked up some more inlets that we have to that we control. So we're paying more of the percent of the fee for that. All right. I'm going to jump down to the appropriations, which is a confusing line to me, and I'm not sure, Doug, maybe he can explain that, but that's actually the assessment to the county. I'm not sure why we're having the assessment that the drain office is levies to the county actually is part of the budget, but other than that, I'm not sure what that line is really there for, Doug. Maybe he can explain that more. But the
just a moment, Commissioner. Yes, sir.
That is what it is. It is the assessment to the county, your drain at large assessment. Since it is charged to a draining activity, that's why it's on your list.
Yeah, it should be below the line then, because it kind of shows that that the drain drain commission is actually paying the assessment of the county, which that's what's happening. So you probably want to move that below the line. Okay.
That's something we'll can talk about at another time. I'd like to ask, can you tell me where legal fees are? I just remember you're having a number of things with an attorney. Where are they listed? And the expectations, are they listed on here? Do you have expectations?
I'm not. I have a hard time understanding because of the echo.
She's looking for your legal fees, Christopher.
Any legal fees that are charged are part of any legal engagement we do is related to the drains. Each of the drains pay those. That's the way the code works.
I'm talking about you had activity this year or last year with an attorney not about the drain so much as process. I don't know if I'm saying it right. There's no one in there that's on.
Yeah, any engagement we do is related to the drains, and all those fees are paid within the drains.
How are they listed on this budget?
They aren't.
What?
They aren't. That's not part of the budget.
It's part of your drain itself.
Okay,
your drain funds.
all right, thank you, I just wondered what category, and if you had thought that you would use attorneys.
What the drain code requires is that the county provide funding for running of the drain commission. And that's what this budget is, it should be for and related to. And that's why that appropriations should not really be in there. It's inconsistent, so it needs to be below the line. If you want to report it, Doug. Or in another bucket, because it really doesn't belong in the drain commission.
Okay, thank you.
You ready? Next slide, Christopher?
Done.
Okay, yeah. Okay. The other, let's see, the other one is the, I'm just picking out the ones that is the revenue, I guess exclusion, that's number, let's see, sources, that shows 5,000. Well, what that is showing is this year, one of our trucks, it's our field truck, the motor pool has reported that it's not really safe for being on the road and that it should be, it's slated for replacement. So we went ahead and put that in our budget to replace that truck. And that is actually showing where we think we can get about $5,000 in auction from the old truck. Okay. If you want to go ahead and flip, just go to the next screen.
Enterprise funds, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
General fund. Where's the enterprise fund? Is that? Oh, I'm out of enterprise fund. There isn't one for the general fund?
Did I skip too far? I'm sorry. Let me go back here. So yeah, you had general and special was your first one, and then the next one was general fund.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate the point that the drain commissioner, Office of Drain Commissioner, is an independent commission by law. What my jurisdiction is particularly with the drains districts, we have about 700, I'm gonna say less than 700 drain districts. Each drain district it's like its own municipality. It can contract, be sued. It's all regulated under the statute, the 1957 56 drain code. It's the oldest statute in the state. It preceded the state constitution. And so what I do as the drain commissioner, I'm like the mayor of every one of those districts. So I manage each one of those districts and the finances and decisions of each one of those districts. So that's a different area. It's not under the purview of the Board of Commissioners. What is under the purview of the Board of Commissioners is the funding for the office, and that's what we have here, which is I think you fund it, and I'll see that's the thing with that other number in there, but it's somewhere, what is it, about $400,000 a year?
I think so.
Yeah, somewhere between $400,000 a year, because there's other numbers in here that have to relate to our 639 account, which is our equipment account, which is a different type of funding account. But one of the things is coming up to this is in this page, we talk about the personnel. And one of the things we can do as the drain commissioners, we can charge back certain personnel functions and those personnels to the drain. I've had discussions in the past and then just a short discussion with the administrator. And we're willing to work in that manner. And what we'd have to do is charge it, those functions back and then reimburse the county from those drains, each one of those drain districts for that, for their work or their time. We believe that we could come up with somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 back to the county for those personnel costs, which would help some of this.
Commissioner Tippett, you have a question?
Christopher, you mentioned personnel. Some of us haven't been keeping up with you in your office. I know there's been some change, etc. Can you real briefly tell us who you have and in what kind of roles on your payroll?
Yeah, right now we have Chief Deputy Kirsten, and then we have Janine, who's our deputy, who handles Kirsten, of course, runs the office. That she's the chief deputy, and administrates the office. Then we have Janine Totsky. It's Kirsten Vandenberg, sorry. And we have Janine Totsky, who handles the kind of splits her time between the permitting and paperwork side of the soil erosion, and then the other time handles all the assessments and assessment role portion of that. Both of Kirsten and Janine work on together on the bonds and notes side of that of the office. Then we have Vicky Spitz, who is our admin. She sits up in the front here, answers the phone, logs in our issues, works with as people call on, try to help with their questions. She also helps and assists with our James Sarno, who's our superintendent, field superintendent, drain superintendent. And what Jim does is he handles all the maintenance side of what comes in. We have about 400. We've been averaging about 400 maintenance work orders a year. So he's working with the contractors, collecting the bids, and making sure. And once the procurement's made with the contractors, he's making sure the work gets done per the agreement of that. And he's also handling our yard and our equipment and making sure that's all being taken care of and properly used. Then we have part-time. Those are all the full-time. Part-time we have helping is Ann Hendricks, which you probably remember as our former chief deputy, and she's particularly working with these petition projects that we have. There's a lot of paperwork and legal requirements that have to be done, and she's very aware of. She has a lot of experience in that, and has been helping with the petition projects, and that's kind of how that's been how office has been set up. So, does that help you out, Commissioner Chickering?
Yes, it does. Just one quick follow-up. Is Ann a part-time Berrien County employee or a temporary employee through an agency?
No, she's a part-time Berrien County.
Okay, thank you.
And so, because I wondered when you were talking about this, you have 3 clerical and 1 field person, this maintenance man?
Yes.
And you, that's your office is 4? 4.
We have 4.
And
Well,
you.
3. There's actually 4. Yeah, 4 full-time employees plus me.
And the other thing, what you do is bid them out when it's a job.
Yeah. We go out. We have contractors that are part of our list of approved contractors. We
Sure.
provide them with the work order. They provide us with the cost. If it's within the jurisdiction of the mileage, which I have under code, I'll make a decision of the procurement to get the contract going. If it's above that, we go to a resolution, which then we go to the township, which they have a vote to approve the spending above that limit, and that's how that happens. Particularly one of that worked with the resolution is the BB drain. That's how that we went out. I worked with the road and the township, and the township passed a resolution for the funding, and then we went ahead and built that job. And I could show you the drain code, and my jurisdiction and under as elected official of this drain commissioner, and the code allows me to outlines the method for procurement through maintenance and petition projects, and that's what we follow.
And I am familiar with, how we've been doing it, that you have very few employees. Do we still let our equipment out, do we rent it out to contractors, how does that go?
We've never rented out equipment to contractors. That's never happened. Okay. When we do work on the drain, if we have a specialized piece of equipment that could help keep the cost down, which we do, which is particularly with I call them grinding heads. There, some equipment and mulchers that they're allowed to use that equipment. Okay, they do not pay me for that equipment. They're allowed to use it, and that's how that works. The use of that equipment, we have a rate that is charged back to the drain for the use of that equipment. We do not rent equipment to contractors or ever have or ever will. And I want to make that clear. I'll say that one more time. We have not, we never have, we never will, or ever in the future or have rented our equipment to contractors.
Okay, but they do.
The road department has used our equipment. They've used it multiple times. We have an agreement where they use our vac truck. They do pay us a fee for that. They're part of the county. They also, in fact, doing a job right now, which is a replacement of culvert. It is a crossing related to one of our drains. They're using our excavator to put in that pipe, the culvert crossing. So we do work with the road commission or road department with some of our specialized equipment.
And maybe I used the wrong word. I didn't rent and you said fee. I'm asking you if what I was asking, do the contractors or other people use our equipment? Because we do not have staff, but we do have trucks and, I remember different things we bought. And that's what I wanted to understand, if you're still allowing it to be used, whatever words you want to use on it. I just want to understand and see what's still going on.
Yeah, we continue, our equipment, we have some specialized equipment that is used for maintaining the drain. This is common for other drain commissions throughout the state, have the same thing. In fact, we are even looking with the high water. Some drain commissioners have actually have pumps where they've used to pump out, lakes and temporary pumps. And we were actually looking this year to maybe procure a temporary pump when some of the inland lakes levels were getting pretty high. But it's a very common. It's more cost effective for us to basically buy the labor to run some of the equipment than it is to buy, have someone on staff to be running that equipment, because we don't, it's just those periods of time are very particular to what we need to do with it. So it's a very cost saving method to do that.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Christopher, how big is your budget?
Is that what it is?
I'm sorry. Commissioner, I'm sorry, I missed your question.
Christopher, I'm just curious, how big is your budget?
My budget for each drain?
Collectively?
Collectively? Huh. Boy, I'm trying to think what we spent, 20 million, 20. It's probably, I'd have to add that up, but we're probably about 3 million on, well, I give you the report, annual report. Let's see.
Do you have the current one? I've got one on my desk.
Yeah. 2019. Yeah. Yeah. Here. Yeah. This is what I do. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the book here?
Yes, I believe I have a copy of that book.
Yeah, that will give you all the drains. That gives you all that information of what the questions you've asked there is how much is spent on those drains. And so there's different types, I think maintenance wise, we look at we're about $3-4 million a year maintenance wise. And then it depends on those projects.
Drain Commissioner Quatrin?
About $6 million. We're just trying to hear in the book.
Hey, Christopher, this is Brian Dissett.
Yeah.
Christopher?
Yes. Yes.
I apologize. We are almost 30 minutes behind schedule for the rest of the presentations. I know that we've had some tech issues. I will follow up with an email requesting the information that Commissioner Curran asked for, which is the annual total cost. If commissioners have any additional requests, I will happily track down that information for you. But with respect, we are quite a bit behind schedule.
Okay.
Thank you. If you will continue with your basics, what you need to give us, Commissioner Crosswell, we appreciate it.
Okay, go ahead to the next slide. What is this here? This is the enterprise funds. Yeah, I'm just going to go through this real quick. The only thing is that we've included a new truck in there, but the other items are pretty much as we did before. Our equipment we're getting into a little more maintenance on those items. Go ahead and then you can see down where we're going to actually try to sell the truck under the revenue. Go ahead and flip the page to special funds. Oh, that's the back. What is that one? Enterprise funds. What's the special funds? I don't remember what that one. We've kind of talked about that. I mean, we could flip through those because we've talked about that. I did that in the summary. Okay, and then what is this here? That's just a truck. Major group. I don't have that. Do I have that slide? That's the last one.
Christopher, that's where it talks about you purchasing a new vehicle for field work. That's the.
Okay. So we do have this information.
Yes.
I would like to say to you, Drain Commissioner, when we had our report from the road department, Jason Latham, he said that you all are working really well together, that the Drain Commission and that the road department are doing some good things. And so
Yeah,
I just want to relay that message to you that it says you're on a good coach.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I'm really, I more and more I work with Jason and the road department. There's a lot of synergy, and there's a lot of savings that we've been able to help with to the taxpayers by just doing things together and using each other's resources to really get the best value. It's been it's been a great relationship, and I continue to look forward to working with them.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Nikki Britton from the Health Department is in the queue and ready to proceed when you are ready.
Okay. We are ready. Next will be the Berrien County Health Department.
Brian,
Yes, sir.
I do have a question about this, but I'll refer to you.
You got it, sir.
Okay.
Nikki, good morning.
Good morning. Annette, will you be posting our slides? Or is that something that will be?
I was gonna share my screen, or are you sharing your screen?
You please go ahead.
All right, I'll get it up here in just a second. Just go ahead and you can kind of start, and I'll get her up there.
Absolutely. So thank you all for giving us this opportunity to talk about our budget. I do want to introduce Lisa Ankenbrook. She's the business manager here at the health department. Really is the brains and does a lot of work behind our finances here. So Lisa will be doing the majority of our presentation about the budget figures. We do want to talk a little bit just with our opening slide and just a reminder of what the health department's mission, vision is, as you'll see as Annette starts to pull that up. But the health department really has a vision of a county that's strategically focused on improving health outcomes and the elimination of health inequities. And our mission is really to prevent disease, protect health, and promote an optimal quality of life for all. And we've seen with COVID why this is so important. There's been so much attention on public health, what it is, and this is a big opportunity for us. A lot of people, I think, didn't necessarily have a concept of what public health is, what it means, why it's important, and how our structures really function and how they maybe have some areas where they might need to be bolstered. So the pandemic has certainly been shining a lot of light on that. We do many things well beyond just response to infectious diseases and this pandemic. Right now, we really do have an opportunity to continue to provide Berrien County residents with really high quality services. And although they often seem to just be at play invisibly in the background, and when everything goes well, you kind of don't notice. When something's not going well, it does become more visible. Our actions really do fulfill our mission of preventing disease, protecting health, and promoting that optimal quality of life for all. We all familiar with that old adage that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. We have the opportunity to continue providing those essential services to our community. And really, this is a time where we need to lean into continuing to provide these services, enhancing and perhaps providing more of these types of services, and maintain what we've invested as a county into public health. And I think that we need to continue to think through how can we continue to lean into that investment, lean into those ounces of prevention without needing so many pounds of cures. And as a health department, we have really, really robust and diverse services ranging from environmental health, making sure that food eaten in restaurants, in other sectors are safe, making sure that all of the wastewater is separated from the drinking water and that the drinking water is appropriate for drinking. There's other infectious diseases that have public health significance that we are monitoring and case investigating and contact tracing on a regular basis as part of our job. But then there's also providing a lot of supports to families and really making sure people have access to the resources that they need and their structures in place, and building a foundation to really set people on a foundation or a trajectory for really healthy, the best health outcomes that they can achieve. So we see those as our opportunities. There's certainly risks and issues delivering these crucial public health services during a pandemic while things are being really just stretched thin all the way around is certainly a challenge. I'm really proud of how our team has risen to that challenge and how we are making use of the resources that we do have available, being really innovative, stretching every single dollar, every single hour that we have to respond to this and serve the residents of Berrien County. So I think we're doing a good job at that. There's always more work to be done than we actually have the resources for. But so we also anticipate COVID-19, that's going to be something on our radar. It's impacted pretty much every portion of our 2021 budget in terms of there is some added resources coming in, but there's also a lot of added work. And a lot of this is, we've talked about as a group before, is going to become really complicated as we're closing out the year over the next couple of months, preparing for this upcoming flu season, preparing for a potential COVID vaccine, when that might come, what that rollout looks like. So there are a lot of these public health crises and responses that we are definitely continuing to respond to, making sure that we're making the best use and maximizing all of the resources that we have available to us to provide that quality. Our residents deserve to have a health department that is constantly fighting to prevent disease, protect health, and promote that quality of life. So the budget we've put together has really been with that in mind. So next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa now at this point to walk you through what we've got here.
So our proposed budget for 2021 totals 9.3 million. That represents a year-over-year increase of 9% or 766,000 over our 2020 approved budget. The bulk of this increase is associated with COVID-19 response activities and is covered by an additional 940,000 of reimbursement that we're receiving related from state and federal funding authorized under the CARES Act for fiscal year 2021. The health department has already received this year 646,000 for response expenses through September 30th, and even as of yesterday, that amount is still evolving. So we're being responsive and agile as funding comes through, and along with that, additional responsibilities. So just as to summarize, total to date for the health department, our COVID funding is 1.7 million. Budgeted state and federal funding in the source of funds section will provide 4.9 million in funding next year. That's over half of our budget. Additionally to that, we charge for services and receive other grants, local grants. That totals about 1.1 million of our 2021 budget. External sources of funding will total 6 million in 2021, and that funds almost 2/3 of our operations. Personnel costs represent 70% of our overall health department expenditures. Admin salaries and fringe are budgeted to rise 10%. That's about 79,000 over our 2020 budget. There's no increase in FTEs. Programmatic and grant labor costs will rise 328,000 or 700% and reflect a reduction of 1 FTE. Did I say 7? 7%, sorry. COVID staffing costs added new costs of 653,000 to 2021, that making up a total change on the personnel line of 1,060,000. Our costs for employee benefits have risen sharply over the last several years, accounting for an additional 357,000 to annual department expenditures over 21 and budgeted to over 2020 and budgeted to increase another 8% or 144,000 in 2021. Next year's purchase services and charges, materials and supply costs are prioritized to provide support for COVID response activities. That added new costs of 33,000 to next year's budget. We've spent about 50,000 so far this year on non-labor related COVID expenses. The health department's indirect costs fell 434,000 year over year. That's a 28% decline. And it's 18% under 2019. The cost allocation plan is prepared annually by Maximus, and the amount has varied significantly from year to year. It includes both facilities and county administrative costs. That county allocation becomes part of our overall indirect cost rate and is spread over all of our programming based on the direct labor and fringe in each of those programs. This year, we initially redeployed existing staff to handle COVID response activities in lieu of their typical job activities. And we've been attempting to balance COVID response to our core funding and grant responsibilities while we planned and ramped up to address the pandemic. We also continued, the redeployment of staff resulted in an unplanned benefit of about 250,000 in savings related to personnel costs that we were able to directly offset with COVID reimbursement. So we're projecting that savings will help to decrease this year's deficit or use of health department fund balance. And we're expecting to end the year about 250,000 more in our fund balance than we budgeted, reducing our deficit for the year for 2020 to an estimated 328,000. Our 2021 proposed budget assumed no increase over the 2020 approved county appropriation for health department operations as mandated by county administration. We plan to use the health department fund balance to cover any gap in our funding and as a contingency against any unforeseen demands or revenue declines in the future. We expect to end 2021 with an unrestricted balance of approximately 540,000. If we could flip to our capital slide, I think I've included in your budget packet a fund statement for 2210 and 2215. 2210 represents admin and our basic core health department functions, and 2215 is basically our restricted funding related to grants and restricted programming. We have met our health department goals in all categories, on both of our fund statements. I believe this slide, the budget guidance slide, addressed overall health department spending 2021 versus 2019 change. Our 2021 budget is about 1.7% over 2019. The medical examiner, which is also a part of our overall budget, over 2021 is increasing 22% over 2019. The capital budget slide, we're proposing 2 capital programs. We're requesting $130,000 for refurbishment of our Niles Clinic. We see about 7,000 clients a year in Niles, about 16,000 in Benton Harbor. And this is a repeat ask, and we've set aside $130,000 of our fund balance for upgrades that will enable us to provide some specialized services in Niles to meet the residents of the Niles community. We're also looking
we do have a question. Excuse me, Lisa. Commissioner Chickering has a question.
Lisa, the work in Niles, how much of that is going to be done by Todd Johnson's Building and Grounds as opposed to new equipment or contractors?
At this point in time, we believe most of that work will be contracted out. Our estimate is based on.
Is Todd not available, or is it specialized work?
It involves moving some walls. If we're able to do the plan, it would involve reconfiguring the floor plan a bit.
Nikki, I'm sorry, hold on, I had a hard time hearing you. Try it again.
Okay, can you hear me better now? So the proposed plan for what we'd like to do in Niles, it does involve adjustments to the floor plan. The crux of the matter is that the exam rooms and the space available for the services we need, particularly in our sexual health services, we're unable to accommodate some of the needs and the flow for how those services have evolved over the years. The rooms are incredibly small and there's not a lot of room to navigate in there.
Okay, go ahead and go forward.
So additionally, our second request of capital funding is $12,000 for improvements and to update the entrances in both Benton Harbor and Niles. Also, as part of that, we would like to reconfigure the traffic flow through the parking lot here in Benton Harbor. It will help us slow down some of the deliveries that go to the back of the building. Those delivery trucks come through pretty fast, and also give a better view of our clinic entrances in both facilities. So sometimes clients get confused about which entrance to come into when they're entering the clinic. So just to kind of summarize, ultimately, our budget proposed for 2021 is our current and best understanding of our response requirements and the available state and federal resources at this time. This is a really fluid situation. We're receiving notices of new funding with very short turnaround times as we speak. So we're reacting, and the course of and scope of the pandemic is unpredictable. We're aware of changes and we'll keep you apprised as we move along. Any questions?
Yes, thank you, Lisa Ackenberg. Do you have any questions here in this room, commissioners?
No.
Any questions from commissioners on Zoom? I would like to ask Nikki, have you been able to hire any of the 9 new positions?
I'm sorry, I could not understand what you said.
Have you been able to hire any of the 9 new positions?
Yes, actually, so we have 8 so far that have worked through the system, and the 9th one accepted the position this morning. So we're still working through some of the start dates and details and all of that, but we expect to have everyone on board and working by the 2nd week of October, if not a little bit sooner.
Flu shots this year? Is there
Flu
a plan
shots?
for flu shots?
No.
So we are doing a lot of flu vaccinations this year. So we are doing walk-ins in our clinic, both in Benton Harbor and Niles, on Fridays for the months of October and November. We are also planning a lot of other vaccination. Our focus this year for flu vaccination must be on the most vulnerable, especially given everything with COVID. So we're doing some targeted community sites that we haven't necessarily done for a couple of years, but we're doing that in some targeted geographical areas. We're working with a lot of partners to get into some of the vulnerable settings, such as skilled nursing facilities, areas where seniors live, homeless, shelters, people that are in transient housing. So we do have a plan for that we are working through, as other health departments throughout the state are doing as well. But we are looking to increase the amount of flu vaccination we are providing and doing it in a variety of settings, targeting those most vulnerable populations and settings.
When I heard you say things are constantly changing, it's possible that you'll get more money that you did not apply for, but it becomes available to the state and federal. Is that what you're saying, that will come to you all?
Correct.
Yeah. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Our next, are we ahead? Are we behind still?
Actually, you're right back on time again. Thank you, health department. Good job.
Register of deeds. Hello. Freely.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, what?
So right here,
Oh,
if you click to the right, it'll advance.
oh, okay.
And I'll do yours on this one also on Zoom that way too.
On Zoom. Okay, perfect.
You got it.
Perfect.
Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. How are you today?
Wonderful. Some of the commissioners are here and some
Morning.
are on Zoom.
Okay,
So
good morning.
please
That's
begin.
Doug. Okay, all right.
And so now that we have, she's in the room, I can't mute the room, so please try to keep any background noise and stuff. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Laura.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I had jury duty this week, so it didn't need me today, so I can be here with all you lovely people, which I appreciate. This is the 2021 budget hearing for Register of Deeds, commonly referred to as ROD. I am Laura Freeling, your Register of Deeds. So the Register of Deeds was established in the Michigan's Constitution, and we do records, retrieving, retaining, and preserving all of Berrien County's land records. It's an honor and a privilege to serve the residents of Berrien County in this respect. We have the great opportunity to get all of Berrien County's land records online. They would all be searchable via the web, dating back to the 1830s. And along with that, then, we have the opportunity, I continually look for opportunities to enhance searching searching those records electronically to make it easy for everyone involved. Register of Deeds revenue is predominantly based on recordings. So of course, as long as we have a strong economy, we see a strong budget end on our side. So that's what we're hoping for, to stay with our strong economy. The next slide here shows all of the budgets that are under the ROD umbrella. So we're looking at ROD, Platboard, Automation, and Foreclosure Search Division. So as we look at this as a culmination of everything, we see that we did not meet the budget guidance by $57,551. I will tell you the majority of that is an automation fund, and I will definitely explain that later. I would like to take a moment to point out the 2021 proposed column. If we're looking at the total use of funds versus the total sources of funds, I just want you to keep that in mind as we're going through the budget, okay? So we look at the next slide, which includes the general funds, those budgets that affect the general fund. We're looking at ROD and Platboard. Please keep in mind the Platboard is only personnel costs, so you'll just see that slight increase already reflected in the personnel line. The other two lines would be the office supplies for ROD and also purchased services and charges, which is basically our copier rental and copier use. Office supplies, I'm asking for $1,250. In 2019, you can see that we expensed out $648. I will tell you that we had a very competent, efficient previous chief deputy of Register of Deeds, and she had us all set up so that in 2019, when she was gone, office supplies were the least of our concern. So we really didn't have to spend a lot. I will tell you that when we order labels that we put on each and every document, if we do the set of 2, we have small labels that indicates when the document was received, and then we have the recording labels. If we order an entire set, it's about $400. So I just want to make sure that we have enough monies in there that we're never short on being able to order those products. So we did not meet our guidance because of those items for $1,114. We go on to the next slide, which is the Automation and Foreclosure Search Division. It says they're 2021 general fund. Technically, these are the special funds, so just bear that in mind. And then if we look at, this is where our big difference is that we did not meet the guidance by $56,000. So looking at our office supplies, I requested $1,000 for the automation fund and $350 for the foreclosure and search division. And then we look at the purchase services and charges. This includes our contractual agreements, dues, training, travel, and the software maintenance. We had a giant increase in the contractual side of it and the software maintenance side of it. And I'm also asking for capital outlay projects, and that's a little bit more than what was spent in 2019. And we'll go into that a little bit further, which is actually this slide right here. Okay, so I just kind of wanted to break everything out for you. You can totally see ROD, Platboard are the general fund accounts. I did throw in there the personnel costs. I think it's always a good idea just to kind of bear that in mind, what we're looking at. But the increase basically in the ROD portion of the budget was the office supplies, again, and the increase in the copier equipment and rental lease. And then the Platboard, like I said, we had a $719 increase from the 2019 actual. And the only thing that's in the Platboard budget are per diems. We schedule statutorily 12 meetings a year. We've not had that many meetings since. Plats seem to be not used as often as like condominiums, but we still need to have those there in case a plat comes up and we need to have a meeting to review it. And then we're going to look at the automation fund. This is the one that really predominantly is carrying the load of why we're not meeting our guidance. We look at personnel costs did go up, of course, and I have $1,000 budgeted for office supplies, but we had an increase in contractual services. Part of that is the completion of the imaging project that we started with US Imaging. That was set up in 3 phases, and this 3rd phase that we'll be starting is about $10,000 more than the other one. So that's part of it. We look at the independent contractors that go along with all of this, with automating of everything. They're indexing these documents as they come in, and they then become searchable. They're moving a little bit more quickly through the mortgages, discharge of mortgages and assignment of mortgages than they did the deeds, so they are doing a little bit more. And with COVID, a lot of them, we had college student, we had a stay-at-home mom, and we had a retired person that predominantly do most of the work, and they went crazy during COVID. So I'm sure this year will probably go a little over budget, but I just wanted to kind of maintain that pace. I would love to get that done, and I can honestly see us being done within the next 3 years of getting everything up online. So that's my goal.
May I ask, how do you hire those people? Do you advertise? How do they get to do? I know for years you've been, not you, but that department has had people updating the books.
Yep.
You know, scanning, however you do it. How do you choose, or how do people get to know about those jobs?
So I've not hired any of these independent contractors. They're all carryovers from the previous register. They work very well and very efficiently. If I did have to, I probably would advertise, yes. I didn't think about it because I've not been there yet. We would have to advertise and just let them know what we're looking for.
And it's just 4 hours a week.
We ask that they do a minimum of a couple hours, at least a week, to try and maintain a constant, you know, so that they're at it constantly, shall I say. Most of them, like I said, school students, so they do it when they're not studying a lot of the weekends.
They do it here, or they're able to do it?
They do it remotely. So we have 2 that are in Florida. We have one that's in, she was in Colorado, she moved back here. And then we have another one that's, I believe in Waterloo area. Those are the main ones. And then we have one in Muskegon as well.
Okay.
So,
Excuse
yeah.
me, Mamie, when you're talking, can you speak up a little bit louder than people?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the microphone's right there, so if you can just speak up a little bit louder for us.
That's what I just wanted to understand how.
Yeah. Yes, we would
how-
definitely, yeah, we would advertise if we needed to hire anyone new. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. So, and then the other thing that's included in automation is the software maintenance and repair for our land management software program. In 2019, I knew they were going to have an increase to 2020, which we bumped up, and then it actually didn't bump up quite enough, which is reflected then in this 2021 proposed. So it's currently at 38.5 for our software and maintenance repair.
Are you on the
contract.
mainframe?
No.
Okay.
No, we are not. I'm glad of that. And then if we look at the foreclosure search division, of course, this was started in 2010. It was a resolution, the commissioners did a resolution. As long as it works for both Register of Deeds office and the treasurer's office, we do foreclosure searches for the treasurer's office. It's been working fine. We did lose Sue Hoffman, who had the expertise area in that. I think we've been working very well without it. But we anticipate transferring out about $92,000 more than the 2019 actual. Part of that is because we're invoicing updates as well as the actual searches, whereas in the 2019, we invoiced only the searches, and the updates just kind of came along with it. I wanted to review with you very quickly the capital project request. This is technically out of the automation fund. I know it says that they're all funds. This particular one is the automation fund. I'm looking for 2 laptops to be utilized by myself, register, and the chief deputy. This will allow us, as we can very well see, we're moving into a more virtual world. This will allow us to do efficient virtual meetings within the office. It also allows us to do our administrative tasks that we have to do daily in the office, just to maintain the office continuity while we're away, like at a conference, or if we have an extended leave, say someone has a surgery or someone's on vacation. I mean, right now, if my chief deputy, Cindy, were on vacation, I would need to stay in the office to get all of this done or have a laptop with me if I had to go to a conference or something, which I have done in the past.
You don't have a computer at all now?
A computer at home?
No, I said you don't have one?
A laptop, no. Nope, we just have our desktops.
And when you talk with IIS to know what to get, or?
I did, yep. I got a quote from them, which included a quote for 2 laptops and also the 2019 Word licensing, or I should say Microsoft licensing.
Right, so you can be in, you know, connect that and they can help you with it.
Yes, I said, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to maintain office continuity while I'm away.
Good, okay.
You know, and also, heaven forbid, we have another emergent situation like we did before where, you know, we're not liking to have everyone in the office, and then that way we can work efficiently from home as well and keep everyone safe. There's a couple of things on here I just would like to briefly discuss with you. They're kind of out in 22. One is Vanguard. Vanguard is a searching mechanism for the online records. This is owned by Profile, so it's an arm of our already used, this is who we use for our land management software. So it's the same company. This Vanguard is a cloud-based storage, so the searching is much quicker. It's also geared towards not the everyday user, but a once in a while user. In other words, you can put in one word and search, and it will bring up options that you can narrow down. Currently, people have to search via how we index, and we index via name, grantor, grantee, some parcel numbers, and so they have to go from that and then broaden what they're looking for. So it's an easier way for someone, the user at home, they say, you know, who owns that property next door to me, they can quickly look it up online on their phone, and that's kind of what that would be geared towards. The other item, which this is going to be new to Doug as well, and this would affect the general fund, but this is a couple years out. I just want to throw it out there that it does need to be done. When we did our last imaging project with US Imaging, there were a couple books that they had to snip the pins on. So those need to be repaired because currently there's no way to lock those in. It's nothing that I think needs to be done immediately. The books are safe. They're in the store, in the warehouse on Empire. And so they're safe, but they do eventually need to be repaired. So that will be out there as well. So, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Anyways, questions?
Do you have any questions here? No. Any questions? Okay. Any questions from Zoom? Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your contribution. You're the one that always shows a positive for us, Laura, so we appreciate it.
I love that. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Thank you, Laura. Madam Chair, members of the board, the next is the prosecutor's office. All of this team will be participating via Zoom. We're going to go ahead and mute the microphone just as soon as you do introductions, but you will see a couple of faces there.
Okay.
And congrats, you're back on schedule.
Okay.
So you have Kathy Butter and Steve Crankley and then Mike Sepik are all now in Zoom, or via Zoom.
Okay.
Well, good morning.
Good morning, thank you.
And I can't quite tell, based on the darkness of the large conference room, how many of the 12 commissioners are present. Annette, can you tell me that?
We have 4.
4 in administration and for the other 3 on Zoom.
Okay, all right.
7.
Thank you. So am I ready to go?
Yes, please. Good morning.
Okay. So on this Zoom meeting is Kathy Vaughter. She is the office administrator, and Steve Perangeli, the chief assistant. And I'm sure you all know that I am retiring on 12/31, and Steve is the only one on the ballot. So Steve Perangeli will be your next prosecutor, doing this, having the pleasure to do this a year from now. Steve actually is on his desktop, so he will not have a audio or video, but he can listen. Kathy has his Surface Pro, which permits the audio and video. And actually, I wanted to mention that I'm doing this on my Surface Pro as well, and that was a capital expenditure maybe 3 years ago, and they are just invaluable to us in the courtroom and at home, et cetera. So again, it was a terrific expense that the board permitted a couple of years ago. So I'm going to try to share my PowerPoint. I have added a few things to what I sent Annette last Friday, so I think I'm going to try to use my version, which is real similar to yours, just has a few added notes. So let's see if I can get this going. And can you see that?
Yes, we can see it, Mike.
Okay, great, thank you. So you'll notice that I did not use the suggested template.
I looked the other way.
The reason for that is I'm stubborn and it's my last one. And I was attempting to kind of take a look at the templates and I just felt I wasn't going to take the time to adapt. So I apologize, but I feel much more comfortable with my old standard that I've used for a chunk of years now. So what I usually do is to introduce the areas, the different budgets. And I have 5 budgets. The first one I call, these are the 5 here listed. The courthouse, basically St. Joe Niles, the victim advocate budget, the paternity order division at DHHS, and then the 2 drug lab budgets, the Andrews personnel budget, basically, and then the drug forfeiture. And I'll get into all 5 of these, of course. So the St. Joe Niles Courthouse, obviously, is, and Niles are the 2 courthouses. That you can see the support staff, the attorneys, we have 1 legal assistant. Just a note there, what she does is, much of what she does is the extraditions and fugitives. Being a border county with Indiana, and actually the largest border county, either on the lower southern border or the UP border, we have a tremendous amount of fugitives who are found here and wanted elsewhere, and then also individuals out of state, Indiana, Illinois, who are wanted by us. And she basically has close to 300 of those a year. And so that's about 1 a day, and that takes paperwork and communications with other out-of-state departments. So Kathy Vaughter is the administrator, and then the audio video specialist that I added a couple years ago. I'm sorry, that you added a couple years ago. So that's the makeup of that budget. The victim witness unit in St. Joe, we have 1 support staff for that unit, 2 advocates for adult court, 1 advocate for family court. And of course, I always have to get Mr. Weber's picture up there. So, and then 1 advocate in Niles as well. The Child Support Order Division at DHHS, which I will be talking about more and just briefly here at this juncture. 1 attorney, 1 investigator, and 2 support staff personnel, 1 of which is 0.6. Just so it's sort of a piece of what we do that isn't often seen. It's closely related to what the friend of the court does with respect to support. But what that unit does is given information about potential fathers who could be paying support. So frequently, the lion's share of the clientele is individuals on public assistance who've now had a child, and then that unit tries to establish paternity and therefore establish someone who's paying support. If you recall, a year or 2 ago, the 1 other investigator who was serving papers for that unit retired, and Mary Molesky, the attorney there, and I forged ahead with doing contract summons and complaint service, and that's worked out quite well. Whereas the investigator who was doing that work in-house was paid somewhere in the $50,000 range a year, as a county employee. We now pay somewhere around $15,000 a year by contracting those services. So the other thing, though, that is on the horizon is that several years ago, the legislature permitted that prosecutor function to be transferred to, if the county decided to the friend of the court. The idea there is that much of what they do is linked to what the friend of the court does. So they're tied into the same state computer system. They're establishing support. Friend of the court, of course, enforces support. And so Tom Watson and I started looking into this, and we're heading in that direction. That takes, it's in the early stages, but it's moving along pretty good. It's going to take, I believe, a resolution ultimately and the state of Michigan to approve. But what that would do is potentially move that staff into the friend of the court office. And it could be managed then by the friend of the court administrative staff. And it just makes a lot of sense. The problem, in a sense, that's not really a problem, is that then the attorney position is up for grabs. The attorney position could stay in the prosecutor's office or go to the friend of the court office. Or we could change that full-time FTE attorney position to a part-time or a contract attorney. And that's because if that, part of what that attorney does is manage that office, in a sense, doing some non-attorney work. If that office were to go to the friend of the court, you really wouldn't need the management component. And so the actual legal work probably could be done by a contract attorney. And because Mary Molesky, the person manning that office for a number of years now, retired as of July 31st, I'm looking to probably engage a contract for that service, for that attorney position, instead of hiring a full-time, in anticipation of it likely going to the friend of the court office. So I'll come back to that in a minute. Then there's the drug lab at Andrews. Again, I think most of you know the value of that. All those samples that our law enforcement collects, whether it's by search warrant or traffic stop or other means, goes to that lab for analysis. If we didn't have that lab, they would have to take those samples to Grand Rapids, wait for the turnaround time that the Grand Rapids lab has, and then wait for those analysts, if we need experts to testify, to be able to be available. And this lab here, since the 70s, has just proven to be a terrific asset to law enforcement here. So they have one chief analyst who's a chemist, and then a part-time support to manage the paperwork. Then there's the last budget is the drug lab forfeiture, what would I call the forfeiture budget. We review all the forfeiture cases that law enforcement brings in. We get a 10% collection fee that goes into this budget. And the equipment that the lab uses is leased from LECO. It's a very, very expensive piece of equipment. LECO is a good friend to us. They lease it to us at a reduced rate. We're in the middle, basically, of a 5-year lease. This is a new instrument as of 2 years ago. The previous instrument was significantly out of date. It I think, had been in the lab a decade or more. So they're using state-of-the-art analysis equipment. We ran into a little problem in that because it's a new instrument, we didn't get a service contract right away. The chemist at Andrews believes we should have a service contract. There is $13,000 worked into this budget, you'll see in a minute, for that. However, the sheriff, being the good Samaritan that he is, and the social fellow that he is, knows folks at LECO very well, and I believe has negotiated that down significantly. So I'll talk about that when I actually get to those figures. So our Niles, St. Joe Niles Courthouse has revenue. It's mostly from grants. That can fluctuate from year to year depending on a wide variety of issues. So it's kind of fickle in looking at the numbers. It doesn't really mean much because we get what we get and we don't have much control over that. Expenses, however, here I have the 1920 and the proposed 21. I think the idea was we were supposed to compare our proposed 21 with the 19 because 20 was kind of an odd year, obviously. So I have this divided into personnel, and you can see the increase, which of course we don't have a whole lot of control over. The total general item that I have listed there is then all the non-wage items. Our increase from 19 is 56,000 with an asterisk. And then you can see our total personnel and general increase of 497, largely due to wages. So what that asterisk means is that included in that 56 is 52,100, which is our portion of our equivant for the coming year of 2021. Equivant, of course, is the J-Works, which is what the court and our office is using to update to a new records management system. And that is what that amount is from Chris at IS. So if we, in a sense, if we take that number out, that leaves 4,444, which is the non-equivant increase in those non-wage line items. And that's an increase over 2 years. So largely, mostly what that is in our contract services line item is where our book, our law book, Westlaw, and our online Westlaw services are extracted from. And those are contracts, and those increase roughly 3% a year, I believe. And so we don't have a whole lot of control over that. And that is largely what that 4,000 is, although it might not be entirely that amount. So with this budget, which is the principal budget and the largest numbers, are there any questions at this point?
No.
Okay. I'll go on then. The next one is the victim witness unit. That is largely funded by a grant from the state. So this is our income, our revenue, which is the grant money. Now, the county figures will include, you'll see here what I have labeled as a special victim fund, and that's 13,000. That was added by the state last year actually. That is a discretionary fund that they've given us, and I believe it's supposed to be 5%. They give us that amount as a means by which we can cover some very special, unique expenses of particular victims. And it's a little interesting because so that is added into the county numbers for revenue. I've extracted it because for instance, in 2020, we haven't used any. We've desperately tried to find the right cases to use where a particular victim has a unique expense. I think we almost used it once where we had to try to get a victim out of town, and we were going to facilitate that with either bus or train or flight, and they ended up accomplishing that on their own. It's a little awkward because it's something we haven't had before, and I don't want to get into a slippery slope of using it willy-nilly, I guess. Some counties buy Myers gift cards that victims can use, like to buy gas or whatever else they might need. I want to be able to spend some of this money, but I don't feel that the audit trail is good enough to be confident that they'd be spent on appropriate items. So again, we're kind of tiptoeing into this, but again, I've extracted that number from the total revenue that might appear on other county documents. The expense then is wages. I think what I gather, and I haven't looked at this in detail, but I think the idea is that the grant money covers the wage, and that the county then supplements that grant money to cover the other expenses, contributions required for wages, Social Security, et cetera, additions to the wages. So actually, the general non-wage money is increased marginally in that budget, or actually decreased, I guess. The child support order division, that is also reimbursed to the tune of 2/3 of what that unit expends. So again, the county obviously kicks in the other 1/3. The general line items are relatively nominal. Again, I want to mention at this point that if we either transition to the friend of the court, or if I anticipate then that transition and contract with an attorney to supply the attorney services, that will, the expenses will come down, obviously, and as will the revenue, because they will reimburse only to the extent that we expend those dollars. So again, I think in any event, going to a contract position is going to decrease the county's contribution as well. And I think that's probably a good thing. I do have to interject here, though, that a part of the attorney position full-time has been managing that small group of people. If the unit goes to the friend of the court office, the contract situation would be ideal, because then that person isn't really needed for those full-time hours to manage those other people. Obviously, the friend of the court management can do that. So I am, based on some comments and emails and conversations with Tom Watson, it sounds like this is going to happen. So while the attorney, Mary Molesky, retired at the end of July, I have contributed one of my staff to learn that job and pretty much fill in the gaps right now for August and September. I don't want to continue that relationship by having that person go as far as the end of the year. So I will probably, because I anticipate this transition will occur, I will probably then, instead of hiring a full-time attorney to replace Molesky's retirement, I will probably go to that contract situation so that we can get somebody in place in the next few weeks to ride out. And then that person could obviously then take over the friend of the court aspect of that same function. It just happens that Mary Molesky, who retired after some 25 years or so, has taken the months of August and September off and is interested in doing the contract work. So that would be a seamless transition. She knows that work, et cetera, and actually would be a good fit for Tom, at least in the short term, as long as she wants to do that. So at this point then, any questions on this division and the transition and stuff that's anticipated?
Do you have any
No
questions?
questions for me.
Any questions from Zoom?
Okay. I'll probably discuss this a little more. I think I'm on track. Are we still on track for the administration committee meeting tomorrow? I have.
No.
Okay, all right. So then we go on to the drug lab. As I understand it, this budget is compensated from the law enforcement millage. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's correct. That proposed 147 includes, well, that's the revenue, includes that 13,000 for the service contract, which would go down, presuming that the sheriff's magic works. I think they're looking at something in the area of 5,000. So that would be a terrific savings, and would obviously decrease then that the increase versus 2019. That's the increase overall is largely simply the wages from the wages of the two individuals operating the lab. modest increases, as well as I believe we pay rent for the space that we use at Andrews, and I think that went up nominally as well. So then there's the drug lab forfeiture budget, which is the rental fee annually for that instrument. And I've never completely understood this budget. I've never probed because it just seems to work. But I do have to, I guess, raise maybe a yellow flag. It's my understanding that, well, I do know this. So we review all the administrative forfeitures that police sees that can be done administratively. So the two types of forfeitures are what we call administrative forfeitures, and then the kind where we have to file it in court. If we have to file a forfeiture in court, that's when it's contested, or if it's real estate, or the amount is over $50,000. And if we have to file it in court, and then the case either resolves or goes to hearing and we recover money or value, we get 20% of that as an attorney fee. And that goes into a different item, I believe, in the general fund. But ever since the late 80s, early 90s, law enforcement in this county has agreed to let us review administrative forfeitures. Those are the forfeitures where there's a traffic stop, an officer seizes $1,000 from a car and maybe a couple grams of cocaine. They serve the individual with forfeiture. They're going to forfeit the $1,000 because it's associated with drugs. And if that person does not contest it, then the police department can administratively forfeit that. And it doesn't even come into the law does not require it comes into our bailiwick. But because of sort of trying to maintain a high ethical standard, years and years ago, it was agreed that the prosecutor's office would review all those for the standard of probable cause. And so very, very occasionally, the attorneys that review those will indicate to the law enforcement agency, hey, there isn't enough probable cause or there isn't enough of a nexus to this property with drugs. We are going to suggest that you return that property and not forfeit it. That's rare, but in a sense, it has kept us all very honest and above board. And I think it's just an invaluable task. And for that task, we get 10% of those proceeds. Obviously, we don't get it if we send it back. But again, I think it keeps everybody very honest, and it's been great for this county. So that 10% fee on those administrative forfeitures goes into this account. And that can be it fluctuates. And so sometimes it's over the 12,000 as I understand it, and sometimes it's under. But apparently it's always been able to pay that 12,000. So what the alert is, what the yellow flags are, is there are significantly less forfeitures in the last 2 years. And I believe they are falling short. So to be honest with you, again, I haven't probed this. It seems to have worked. Ben and Doug are going to know obviously what the figures are for this account. But I believe the last 2 years, the proceeds there have been in the area of 7,000. So I don't know exactly what's in that account to make up and pay for that 12 annually. But it's something that we probably should start paying a little more attention to. Any questions on that?
Mike, hold on.
Hey, Mike, I talked to Kathy the other day. We're gonna move that because of that exact same reason.
And you're going to move that into the general prosecutor budget?
It'll go to the other program, the drug lab program.
Okay, all right, good enough.
He knows that.
That was Ben Reynolds.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mike, that was Ben Reynolds.
Yes, okay. And there's just a little bit of an echo here when it's from the conference room, so.
Mike, I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Curran?
Okay, thank you. This is Commissioner Curran.
Yes.
Mike, when you talk about the forfeitures, does that include the sweat team?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I think largely when marijuana became legal that contributed to a significant degree the downturn in forfeitures. But that hasn't, because of the rise of meth, everyone's still staying busy. The lab felt there was probably going to be a decrease, and I don't believe, while there might be a moderate decrease, and you can look at John's annual reports every year, the increase in meth is filling the gap. But for whatever reason, it doesn't seem law enforcement is as active on the forfeiture end. I guess we haven't really probed to know why that is. But that might be something we can kind of look into and maybe try to pump up a little bit. I mean, we don't want to be forfeiting just for the sake of funding this equipment. On the other hand, the whole purpose of forfeiture is to deter the operation and the business. And so I would be maybe inquiring of law enforcement why this has gone down. Again, not so much for the purpose of funding this, but rather it is a law enforcement tool to ding the economic advantage to trafficking drugs. So it's probably a conversation I should have with some of the key drug law enforcement folks.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep. Anything else? We have, oops, why is this not 40?
Sorry, Mike.
No, Mike, are you done?
Well, not quite. Let me just see. I think I've dealt with the drug lab. Then this is a summary of the revenues. This is a summary of the expenses. And we have no capital requests. So now I'm done.
All right.
You have questions, Commissioner?
First of all, Mike, I think all of us would congratulate you on a great career on behalf of Berrien County. We'll have opportunity at the end of the year, I hope, to say more. I think you've done a marvelous job looking out for your organization. You're an absolute magician and wonderful advocate. And Steve is inheriting a very well-staffed and very well-paid organization. I had to be unfair, though, to let you go without asking the question. There was a guidance, I believe, for last year and this year, somewhere around 2% for wage increases, and yet your personnel budget's going up 15%. Would you like to comment on that?
Oh, let's see. So part of it, you know, I got to tell you, if I wanted to deal every day in accounting and finance issues, I wouldn't have gone to law school, right? So I'm probably not going to be able to answer that specifically, and Doug and Ben probably could, but one item might be that the board did permit the addition of one new attorney that started in June, I believe, of this year. So that added, again, another FTE. So that could contribute to some of that, I would imagine. Ben and Doug, is that going to be the lion's share of that, or?
Frankly, I hope not. There's 500,000 increase that we're talking about, and that probably is more than just one lawyer.
If I may.
Yes,
Of
please.
that, if I look here, the pension and OPEB go up about 200,000.
Okay.
Roughly 185,000. So a significant portion of that is related to benefit costs. Health insurance also goes up 20. So there you're at 200,000 of the 274.
But everybody has that.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the force. I'm pulling out the chart now.
No, Mike, I think it's clear, you know, you're doing the right things for your organization, and I fully support you in that.
So Bill, thank you for the comments. I really appreciate that. The other thing Steve just alerted me to was also that we're comparing this proposed budget to 2019, and actually that has another additional staff from the 2020 budget as well. So that's probably at the minimum 2 new attorney positions as well. So again, that's part of the contribution to the increase.
We just double checked the spreadsheet that was sent out yesterday. It looks like 1.4 FTEs was added for the prosecutor's office.
Mike, did you hear that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So then I did have, there was one more page just to top this off. No capital requests and no requests for additional attorneys or other staff at this time. No, I really have to thank the board for listening to my concerns. Much of that because of the addition of indigent defense and what my attorneys have had to go through. And I think I don't want to speak for Steve and make any promises for next year, but we are well positioned and do handle that increase in case by case effort by our attorneys. So again, I applaud you for trusting me, and I appreciate that trust. So otherwise, I am done.
Any questions from Zoom?
Nope, we appreciate Mike and all your years of service.
Thank you
very much, Mike.
Mike, can I ask you to please send me that PowerPoint presentation so I can have it for the record?
Yep, I sure will.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you to all you and all your staff, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll be in touch.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right. See y'all later.
Commissioner Yarborough had to step out to make a personal phone call. I am hereby appointing Commissioner Chickering to fill her seat. We do have 2 presenters in the office or in the queue ready. The next up is GIS. Commissioner Chickering to the group. Does anyone need a short recess before we go into GIS?
All right. Okay. Annette, you're the critical one.
Well, I will hear, yeah, probably, but that's okay. I'll get you set up so you can go.
Okay, great.
All right, I will grab.
Get Lex.
Lex, you're up. I just wiped it down.
I noticed. Thank you.
Look at him all dressed up again. You really show off for us, buddy.
Just click the right button to advance.
All right.
Hold on just one second. I gotta get you up here.
We are just a few minutes behind schedule.
I will get you caught up if you don't mind.
Alright.
Is that okay with you?
I'm sure there's going to be a wave of complaints.
We're ready for Lex?
Hold on.
Whoa.
There we go.
Ready, Annette?
Yeah, Lex or Ben's gonna do mine for a minute. I'll be right back.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Lex Winans, Director of the GIS Land Description Department. And basically, tell you a little bit about what my department is. We are broken up into 2 parts, which is GIS, and then the second part, as said earlier, land description. So GIS, the purpose statement is to continue to build and develop the comprehensive GIS program that provides valuable data to be used by the public and the county employees to benefit in their decision-making process. The data provided will result in the improvement in health and safety and quality of life of its citizens. And then the second part of our department is we go ahead and basically maintain the property descriptions, land, taxpayer names, addresses, maps, aerial photography for 39 assessing units in the county. Some of the opportunities we have in the future here is we're going to start working with collectors, which is in essence putting information on tablet form or phones or whatever, and then using that information that's gathered out in the field to be directed right to live maps for EOC, for road department, and places like that. So some of the risks and issues that I see, basically, I'm bringing in things back to our department, GIS-wise, gathering, and as an example, we're bringing back 911 mapping as well as addressing for 911. So I'm increasing our department's workload, but working with other departments to expand their capabilities.
So let's stop.
Sir.
Those collectors, are those going to be employees or just people out in the field or what?
That's a great question. They're actually going to be employees. I mean, that's how we're setting it up initially, but you've actually now just triggered something to think about for the future, how we can get people, the public, to actually use collectors and be able to collect data in the field as, you know, whatever we're looking for. But that's a great point. So as an example, we go to EOC Emergency Operations Center and we have, hopefully not, but let's say we have a flooding situation. People from damage control could go out into the field with these collectors and assess each property. And as they're assessing the property, it's being linked real time back to Captain Adams at EOC, and he's able to make decisions based on real-time information. So moving forward, this is basically the chart we were asked to do. I have a red in the personnel costs, which is kind of out of my control, and then I do have a red in materials and supplies, but that was because I brought GIS GIS software back to my department. We're paying for it instead of all the other departments maintaining it. So, but I met budget guidance by $3,800. Good for us. So this is basically, move to the next screen. It's basically the exact same thing as aforementioned. So I went through and broke this down. This is the cost per line item. You see most of our costs go into contracts as well as GIS software and plotters. So these are things that we can't do without, and the rest of it is little amounts. Again, IS copier fees, things like that. This is just kind of a snapshot of our highs and lows over the years. And in this year, we're looking at budgeting $7,500 for parcel mapping, which is staying in line with last year. Our splits combinations, I budgeted $17,000. That is a little bit lower, about $3,000 lower than last year. Not really sure. Right now, we're not seeing a ton of splits and combinations come through, so I'm not sure how that's gonna work out. And then sale of maps, I budgeted $12,000, which is up a couple thousand from last year. People were not buying plat maps this year because of COVID, things of that nature. So I assume that we'll have a little uptick. So this is just a bar graph showing our budgeted revenue over since 2017. We're pretty much staying in line with the past. So moving on to the next part, which is remonumentation. This year, or for next year, 2021, we are looking at $55,291. This is 100% grant match. So this is determined, the amount is determined by the state of Michigan. So all we're doing is with your approval, we'll be approving this amount for next year. What the future holds. Basically, we're looking to go green. And what I mean by that is we're going to start digitally archiving, well, we've been doing it, but digitally archiving the paper maps and only printing hard copy maps as necessary. What I'm doing now is I'm looking towards next year's budget. Also, not just looking towards next year's budget, I know Doug and others are always looking for space for filing cabinets and things of that nature. Our plat maps take up and digital aerials take up a lot of space. So I'm looking to put all that stuff in digital form and make floor space available for other departments in the future here. And efficiency, using GIS technology such as handheld collectors, dashboards to provide leadership with the most current and accurate information, which we just described moments ago. And in my mind, streamlining equals cost-saving measures. And I'm going to show that right here. For the last 3 years I've been doing this. And this is our GIS website. Our GIS website in 2018 through 2019, we had 2.2 million requests. A request is a person clicking on a piece of property and having that information pop up. That equals 6,100 requests per day, and total visits to our website were 161,000. That's an average of 444 people a day who are requesting about 13 to 14 properties per day. What does that mean? The way I look at that is these are people who are going online. We're using our monies wisely. We have our online website. People are going online, looking up this information, doing it from home, from the comfort of their home. They don't have to come in, but that also means that I don't necessarily have to have more staff to tend to all the people coming in needing information. But that was 2018, 2019. Look at the jump from 19 to 20. We're looking now at 4.8 million total requests, averaging 13,000 a day. Total visits to our website, 197,000 people over the year, and that's an average of 542 a day, and those people are requesting about 25 property requests a day. So that is, in my opinion, an example of us taking GIS and putting it out for the public so that they can use it and just being more efficient with technology.
So is that realtors and title searches, or?
It is everybody. I mean, I get, it's the general public. Sometimes I have people come up and they'll say, oh, you work with maps. And they'll ask about the website. And this is just people who are looking for homes, looking for, whatever. Everything. So, as promised, I tried to get through this as quickly as possible. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I have one. How are I assume your archives are in cloud. How's everything backed up if you're going to go paperless?
Everything would be backed up through servers, through IS. So whatever Chris has, they have 2 or 3 sets of servers backed up. So we will have a paper set for the office. Eventually, I would love to get that so that a customer would come in and have a kiosk and be able to do that, but that's future planning. Everything's backed up on our servers.
All right. Any questions here?
I enjoyed what you're all done.
Oh, thank you.
Any questions out there in the netherworld?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Great. All right.
Very good job.
Thank you.
Super work, Lex. Thanks.
Keep going.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we've got Paul, the Public Defender's Office is sitting in the queue and ready.
Well, I for one have to
Yep. Okay.
take a 2-minute timeout. Excuse me.
Members of the board, we're just going to take a brief recess, less than 5 minutes, and I will holler at all of you, letting you know when it's time to get going.
All right, is everybody back? How are we doing out there on Zoom? Everybody there? Silence is golden. I guess they're all right. Paul Jench is with us. He is our Chief Public Defender, and he's going to review the coming year budget for his organization. So, Paul, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, and again, thank you for having me here. Berrien County Public Defender's Office provides excellent representation for indigent adults charged with crimes in Berrien County. Funding is pursuant to the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission Act, and the majority of the funding is therefore by the state. For next year, we have already been approved by MIDC. The board approved the compliance plan and cost analysis that I submitted in June, which was then forwarded to the MIDC and was fully approved in August. So we already have been approved by MIDC for next year. We have had no interruptions during this pandemic with our funding. The way essentially it is provided to us is we are required to submit quarterly reports to the state, and within approximately 10 days to 2 weeks following submission of those reports timely, we receive 50% and then 25% of our funding, and there's been no interruptions and no reductions. Again, our compliance plan was already previously approved. This was significant for us. We're one of a minority of systems which was approved on the first go around. There are still some systems that have not been approved for funding by the state for next year. The budget, which was the granted budget, was reduced from FY20, a couple $100,000. The local share, which is based on historical data, historical county costs for indigent defense, reduced slightly from last year. Well, I didn't move that yet. And this is based upon the fact that our budget is less than last year. The guidance that I had from MIDC was to be certain that I control costs and limiting them to compliance with the standards rather than extra projects like construction, et cetera. And so that was one of the bases for us having the early approval. We have demonstrated that we're a model across the state, and I think our office provides an incredible value for the county. We provide additional services, legal service contract preparation and review, supervising other legal services contracts, which provide independence for the trial court, which has become a priority for them. This document was submitted was prepared with great assistance by financial services, and I want to emphasize that this is very much a work in progress. The issue that we have, it's really twofold. It's a work in progress because our office operates, our funding is pursuant to a fiscal year. So we have not closed out our costs for FY20, which creates a very difficult accounting issue for financial services. So that's part of the issue. The second issue is MIDC requires me to submit my budget to them in a certain format. It does not follow the line items and categories that the county software follows. They won't let me do that. I had conversations early on with them about this issue, and the guidance I had is make it as streamlined as possible so you get approved. So which creates a difficult accounting issue again for financial services. When they receive a broad category that's been approved, they have to then break it down and place it into the line items that the county budget software uses. The big picture is that we are in excellent financial shape. We've had no interruptions in our funding. We are approved for $3.095 million for next year. The county's obligation is, I believe, $574,000, which is an incredible savings to the county compared to historical data. The services we provide far exceed those offered historically. Not only are we in compliance with the standards, but we're also a model across the state. So again, this document it's a work in progress that will be fixed, or I guess it will be more accurate once we complete our fiscal year. I'll be working with financial services to do that. Part of the personnel costs, which again, I believe this is going to be fixed when we complete our fiscal year, but the personnel costs went up from last year by $100,000 approximately. Part of that was raises, cost of living increases that were approved by MIDC. And the other aspect of that is a social worker position. Now, financial services has placed a portion of the social worker position within this contingency fund. I'm going to work with them. I think it'll be a much simpler way to fix that. But the bottom line is our funding, our budget request actually went down from last year. So there are some issues we still have to work out on this document.
So Paul, just stop.
Yep.
What's the breakdown? You said MIDC is giving us 3.09 mil.
So,
and what's the county's contribution?
Our total budget, which was approved by them, is 3.095 million, just over that. Of that money, Berrien County is on the hook for $574,500 approximately, $575,000 approximately.
Okay.
So that what that essentially means is the state is going to give Berrien County about $2.5 million.
Okay.
There's also some amount of money, attorney fee cost, which the court assesses to individuals who are appointed counsel. That should be going towards the county share of that money. It's not additional money that we get, it goes to the county's share, so it really cuts that down as well.
Good, all right, thank you. I just wanted to keep those numbers in mind.
So I guess one thing I want to highlight, I sort of touched upon the social worker position. You know, yet again, Berrien County's at the forefront. MIDC approved and the board before I submitted the request to the state. Berrien County's first public defender social worker. We are interviewing for this position now. And this, as I see it, is a huge step towards holistic defense for indigent individuals in Berrien County. Social worker will help indigent clients with substance abuse services, mental health services, housing, employment. These are things that are significant issues in the lives of our clients. And we see it as a huge step forward, not only to hopefully reduce recidivism, but also to improve the lives of our clients. And there are a few offices that have such a position, and we're very excited about what that holds for us.
Great.
So I can, again, as I said, this is very much a work in progress. The big picture is that funding has come through perfectly for us. We have pared down our budget so that we are just worried about the standards that we're required to meet, which we have met and exceeded. And
where do we stand on the next phase of standards?
So the standards 5 through 8 have been approved by the MIDC, and they're at LARA at this time for full approval. My understanding is that it's probably towards, so calendar year 2022, I would believe, sometime, we're still about a year out at least.
Are those
so that
minimum staffing standards and total hour standards and all that?
So the next 4, they would be case weight standards, which, would require us to there's an antiquated model where, attorneys can do 200 felonies a year. That's from the 70s. It doesn't take into account whether it's a murder or, financial transaction vice crime, something like that. So the state is working towards creating standards where we weight our cases. And, we already do that within the office. We try to limit the number of severity of cases our attorneys have. Compensation for attorneys, we're very much in line with that already because we have pay parity with the prosecutor's office. Qualification review, we already have a system in place for reviewing attorneys. So we're essentially just in very good shape.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And judicial independence. I'm sorry, that's the last one. But
I just wanted to say hello. My name is Mamie Yarbrough. I thought, who's that? But I knew you when you were.
Oh goodness.
I'm
well, it's nice to see you.
Vicki Yarbrough's wife and county commissioner. So, well.
Thank you.
Continue.
You get the next one.
No, you go ahead. I'm still seconds.
Okay. Questions and answers. Let's start. Anybody on Zoom got a question for Paul? Hearing none. Anybody in the room?
I just have a question.
Yes, Dave.
On the social worker part of it.
Yes.
How is that going to get referenced? I mean, as far as who's going to recommend that a social worker get involved with a particular situation?
That is a very good question, and it's something that we don't have much of a roadmap for that. So, you know, the successful candidate for this position, in my opinion, is going to be somebody that has local connections to all the local service providers, such as Riverwood connects us. And, you know, my aim would be to hire somebody that is going to contribute to that process, is going to help inform us how best to allocate that resource. You know, I'll be working with other indigent defense systems to see how, you know, because we only have one social worker, which of the clients is going to benefit from this, because they can't obviously come up on every case. So that is something that we have to create. It's a new thing for us.
Once you get that introduced, it may get to be a busy position.
I think it will be. I mean, not every, just if you take the cases one at a time and looking at them, I think it'll be pretty clear, you know, at least a large portion that won't need the assistance. But it's certainly going to be a busy position, and one we're going to have to manage carefully.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Just as a side note, one of the labor attorneys I've worked with for over a decade started her professional life as a social worker and wound up in the prosecutor's office. So.
Oh, man.
That's turning the tables.
Mamie or Don, any questions? No. Okay, I've got a couple of topics.
Sure.
If you got a second.
Yeah, of course.
First, where do we stand on space? I know you got you got the majority of your group downtown, and another group across the river renting space. What's the project?
So we are creatively placing people. When I started in the office, we had, I think it was 13 individuals upstairs at 100 Church Street, and we had approval and funding to expand to Edgewater. At this point, we have 2 vacant offices over there. We have some vacant cubicles in our current space. When we were in the process of getting back to full staffing, because we lost Chris Renna and that position was vacated. And then we lost one individual who moved to California. So we're filling 2 attorney positions. We have hired them. Start dates are pending now. One very experienced attorney from east side of the state, and then one quite brand new attorney with a really impressive background and experience, then the social worker. So I think we're in good shape for space right now. But we're having to kind of move around a few things.
You're in Niles, excuse me.
We have
Niles space also.
Right. Yes, we have three attorneys that are full-time down in Niles, and we also rotate down one misdemeanor attorney helps with some of the higher docket misdemeanors down there.
Okay, I guess the other question I was going to ask you to address was your staffing. You've had some people leave to California, I guess.
Right.
How's the hiring opportunity? How's the market out there?
I was very encouraged. So I started out sort of a traditional. I mean, I've not been one to hire a lot of people in my career. It's a relatively new thing for me. I learned about it when I started in the office. The Indeed.com resource just drastically changed how many candidates we got. I put job postings, local law schools. We considered the state bar, which was very expensive. I couldn't justify the expense. But some of those local, or some of the internet things like Monster.com, Indeed, a lot of them required money to be used, but Indeed didn't. And once we posted the positions on that resource, I think we had like 20 applicants for our 2 attorney positions, and we had 5 for the social worker.
Great.
So I recommend that any department use the Indeed.com. It's very helpful.
Good. Other questions, comments? Obviously, what you're leading now is one of the gems of what we've been able to achieve over the last few years. And Mr. Sepik was very complimentary because he Talked about how he's been able to upstaff his organization too.
Out of necessity, yeah.
I always refer to it as the attorney arms race.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're keeping up.
It was nervous.
Yeah, well, thank you.
But someday we're gonna have to come to a summit. Scale back the weapons. But, great work, Paul, and again, thank you for stepping in a real tough situation and keeping the great work going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm so glad.
Thank you.
Good.
Have a good day. And I
Right. No sense is best.
I think Lex and I got you caught up.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so we're running into some difficulties with the next budget. It's printing, and we've just got some tech issues. If you would like, we could try to work through them, or I can run up, grab Brian Bailey, get him into the queue while we work on printing.
Okay, get Brian and let him get it.
When I just tell her to come over.
Yep.
All right, so tell her.
Give me 2 minutes, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sure.
What do you say, you can't get it on Zoom and that?
She can't get into the yes.
Yeah, that'll be a chance to get you.
Was that in person?
Yeah,
She's over there, so,
Yeah, I think she's not in the program, and
What?
Brian's been saying well.
Yes, they are.
I got people telling me they're in jail, and I said, I should apologize, I'm like, maybe you're arrested. Well, I didn't know who he was.
Well, you know, the best thing is we're getting our
Off mute.
Madam Chair, we are adjusting your schedule. Mr. Bailey will present the parks budget, and then we will circle back around to the print shop, will be the last item. So I think you all know Brian. I'll get out of his way.
Point it towards where?
Welcome.
Oh,
No, there you go. Yeah.
there we go. Folks, many have seen our mission statement before. It is the mission of Berrien County Parks and Recreation to plant, acquire, develop, maintain in cooperation with all interested individuals, groups, a responsive, efficient, creative, natural resource-based park and recreation system available to all citizens, comprised of a variety of
services, park areas, special facilities that contribute to the well-being of the individual, the family, attractiveness, social, economic health of the Berrien County community. And I think that statement is outstanding, and we've done that, and especially during this stressful time, our parks were the go-to. March, April, May, all summer long. Parks are not icing on the cake. Parks are a necessary component of government, and I think we all agree on that. Opportunities that we have in 2021, we have a grant to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund to acquire 35 plus minus acres that adjoins Madeline-Bertrand County Park. Estimated value of that property is around $400,000. We have a trust fund grant for $300,000, which would be matched with $100,000. We'll know in December whether the trust fund board gives us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Once they give us a thumbs up, then that goes to the legislator in March or April, May for their approval and the governor's approval, and then it's a done deal. So that's an exciting possibility. The property is right on the St. Joe River. Much of it is, a third of it is forested, a third of it is open field, and some of it's wetlands. So, but I think it'll score very well to add to that property at Madeline-Bertrand County Park. Folks, I think it's time to look. We have a public-private relationship right now with our concession stand, and I think it's time that we look at kindling that relationship further. How are we going to get from that structure that we have now that is near the end of its life to something that is Silver Beach County Park was nationally recognized as one of the top 25 beaches in the United States. It included all the beaches on the West Coast, East Coast, Hawaii. It was the only park on the Great Lakes to be mentioned on the TripAdvisor website. So we cannot let this property go backwards. We need to keep improving, and I think a way to do that, I'm not guiding this board or telling this board what to do, but I think it's important for this department to say, look at the possibilities. How can we work with a private firm or a public-private relationship, which we're doing right now. We're in a 5-year lease with a private business, and how can we make that better?
Commissioner Chickley.
Thank you, Chairman. Brian, I think we talked very informally, but I challenge this organization, the Board of Commissioners, to consider somewhat of a seismic change that could really help us on this particular project and maybe in the other parks as well. A number of parks that I'm aware of, as part of their concession operations, allow the sale of alcohol. We have rules against that. I think we could achieve a very upscale partnership with a vendor, whether it's the current one or some other, to build or fund a new pavilion if they were granted the opportunity under the right set of circumstances to sell alcohol to the park people, probably in the right contained environment, et cetera, et cetera.
And then they stay there.
Correct, they're in a contained environment. And I think it's something that, I don't know whether the Parks Board should look at this, or Brian, you think that there's a bigger picture, but, or PHSC, which you report to, philosophically discuss whether that's consistent with the way Berrien County wants to manage its parks, because I think we could move in a different direction and move to a great improvement to our parks. And so it's just an idea.
I totally agree with you, Commissioner. We understand that alcohol is prohibited at all of our county parks. We do have exceptions. We've been very successful we've been very successful with those exceptions.
Yes.
I.e., we had a bicycle event at Love Creek County Park. Alcohol was provided last October on a Sunday afternoon from about 1:30 in the afternoon to 3:30 in the afternoon. Outstanding event that brought in nearly $10,000 to Berrien County Parks.
The beer, there wasn't beer.
There was beer was provided, I don't remember if wine. I'll remind the county board, we've had over 150 alcohol-related events, successful events at Silver Beach County Park in over 15 years of conducting public events. Do we have alcohol brought into the park? Yes. It's being served within 100 yards of Silver Beach County Park at 2 businesses. It's something that, to your point, Commissioner, is why I put that up there, is to explore. Let's get educated. What are the possibilities?
Just to jump in real quickly, I've spent some time with Brian. I've been very impressed with the operation that he runs, with his track record, and I completely agree with him that if there is a desire to update Silver Beach, if there's a desire to replace playground equipment, to have new modern restrooms and a pavilion, outside revenue sources will make a lot of sense to make these things feasible. And I think that having a conversation about potentially opening up Silver Beach to allow for a third-party contractor to sell alcohol in a safe and managed way could be a good way to create that new revenue stream.
And let me say this, didn't we look at in your town, when you had people coming, didn't you have something about the pavilion and drawings and things when people were coming and writing down things? I mean, we've already done the studies.
Commissioner, those are conceptual drawings of what could happen. How can we get to this, from what we are now to this, what we're all very proud of?
And that's what I was asking, was that in those when people were coming in, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, that? So you have some backup.
Yes, we do.
Of what people thought about it.
We know that at Silver Beach County Park, at our other park facility, but this one's very close to this building, is we have a minimum of, and this is, I think it's fair to say, Brian, $300,000 in erosion work at the south end of the park.
At the low end.
At the low end, $300 to $1 million. We have a playground structure that's $250,000 that's at the end of its life. It's got a year or two, folks. Our concession stand is roughly $500,000. I mean, we have $1 million in coming at us fairly quickly. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think there's 3 choices at this point. Is we look at PA 90 changes to it. We look at public-private partnerships, which Mr. Chickering is discussing. Or the third option that is not acceptable to this department or this board is do nothing. And I'll be looking for guidance from you as far as what is the third or fourth option as far as how do we get to where we want to get. Because this team, Berrien County Parks, is working diligently to say, here's a couple of viable options for you to decide of how we're going to get here. So.
Any Zoom comments? Okay, we have never got to the numbers, but this is important. And I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go. Yeah.
The other opportunity that in 2021 that we are working on right now with the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund to acquire 63 acres at Paw Paw River County Park. We've been earmarked those dollars. We're doing some environmental work, some appraisal work. We're working with the DNR. I'm working as fast as I can to get this under our umbrella that's acquired. We put in a grant application to develop that 63 acres. My timeline is we wouldn't get approval on this grant from the DNR until summer of 2021, which means by the time summer 2021, all the construction firms are busy rocking and rolling. We would start construction in 2022, spring of 2022, which is fine with the DNR, fine with our grants, fine with our budgets.
Okay.
So we'll know whether we get this grant at the end of this year, but it's something that we need to plan for, and we are planning for it. So any questions with that?
How many dollars? If it's up there, I can't see it.
We're asking for a $300,000 grant to be matched with 2022 dollars.
Oh, okay, I
To be
see.
matched with $100,000 in 2022.
Well, the same as the one at Madeline Nursery?
Yes,
Same dollars? And the
Yes.
same amount?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And all departments have been asked to, our risks and our issues. Obviously, for most, the pandemic, it was challenging to see all the people come out to Love Creek and Silver Beach in the spring, and we're not collecting fees because of the pandemic, and that did impact our budget. I was very surprised to see that with Silver Beach County Park parking in half, we were only down about 6 or 7% from last year. As far as, we have recovered very well, but it doesn't, if this continues through next summer, it does impact us, obviously. We have a challenge, folks, of hiring good, high-quality, young, frontline staff. It's a challenge for all small businesses, in my opinion, and it is a challenge for us to hire these folks that are the representative of myself and you that greet our customers, and that continues to be a challenge. And then we're looking at, as we just discussed here 5 minutes ago, the delay in infrastructure or decay of infrastructure that's happening at our parks, and so those are some of the challenges. Doug, I'm going to ask you to chime in on some of these questions if I get stuck. As far as looking at all funds,
For the most part, this is going to be related, for the most part, this is going to be related to your special revenue fund that you have, or several special revenue funds for the parks. You have the normal millage money that you're seeing that's coming down and the revenue down there below. That gets, because of the way PA 90 was originally structured, that gets cycled through the general fund and comes back in as a transfer in. So that's why you're seeing transfers in at the number they are. So that's offset by a transfer out. So you got to kind of ignore those two amounts if you can. So his true operational costs really have to do with the personnel costs right there, $1,140,000, materials and supplies of $112,000, purchase services of $447,000, and then capital outlay of $487,000, which we'll talk about in just a minute. He is up versus the 2019 actual, okay, overall, $19,000. Some of that's going to be related to some of the things that they're trying to do there. So, if you want to go to the next slide, we can. Okay. This should be general fund alone, but you don't have anything in the general fund. I don't understand that. Oh, well, I'm sorry. My apology. That's really not general fund. Okay. If we go up above, that's your 7510, your normal operating activities that would not be using that PA 90 funds. So we're seeing an increase there overall of $138,000 versus his 2019 budget, or $69,000 versus 2020. We'd have to go and dive in just a little bit in materials and supplies and purchase services, but yeah. So if we keep going here, the 7511, this is really where he's using that millage money okay, that comes over that he can attribute to, that PA90 designation. I'm not sure, you know a lot better what you can and can't use that for, Brian.
Personnel and maintenance.
Yeah, anything that would be new, correct?
Yeah.
Off of the normal base operation.
Did we raise the millage amount?
We did not.
Okay, we just kept it. We didn't put it on the ballot, but we
We
just
did
kept
not.
it put on.
It would not be required to be on the ballot,
Right.
but, to my knowledge, you did not. No. We did not.
No.
But we kept it. Okay, thank you.
So, thus far, it's helped his operations a lot.
Good.
So, I don't know whether you want to just keep on rolling here, Brian, or?
Yeah.
A part of that, can you back up one? A part of that, if you go to the capital outlay and projects, that $487,000, that we'll touch on that in a minute. A lot of that's the purchase of that land for $400,000.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, now you can.
Proposed.
All right, this is his historic courthouse expenses. Right now, it's budgeted to be the purchase services and charges, which basically maintenance type items, is projected to be up about $12,000. Capital outlay, there's nothing built in the 2021 budget for that at this point.
May I ask something as we're doing that? Are they putting money in that? You know, we loaned them something and.
Right. They are.
And we have a little bit to give them and they finance the rest of it?
They are on a repayment plan. They were not able to make the payment, I'm trying to think what the date was. Was that April? Because of COVID.
Right.
They asked for that to be pushed out, and we gave permission for that to be pushed out.
They're going to be requesting for the delay be considered on that payment. I toured the site, I think about a week ago, and that request is coming.
Okay, it's good, it's going, she's busy.
So this is your environmental clean sweep. That's a lot of this, the tipping fees at the different landfills, excuse me. A portion of that comes into this area. So that's what you're seeing some of the revenue down there related to. You will also see there's some, is it federal or state, Brian? Money that comes in towards the clean sweep program. And so we try to manage within the funds that we have available there for those two areas. And very kind of, yeah, you can bypass that one, I'm not sure about that. Okay, this would be your grant. I'm sorry, one more time. Your project requests. Again, you've got the 100,000 or the 400,000 there you're seeing for the land acquisition. You also have, they're after a few other things like they need to get a new mower, they need to get, new surf rake down here at Silver Beach. The one that they've already rebuilt it once or twice. I don't know what it's been, but in my time that I've been here, they've rebuilt it once, for sure. So something needs to be done there at some point here, and then there's a couple other small items on the list. Okay?
So on the acquisition that's, we are requesting $300,000 from that.
Correct. And that is built into your revenue item on one of the previous slides. Okay? Did that take care of what you?
Yes, very much.
Any questions of Director Bailey?
I have a question.
Yes.
About, we went and took a tour of Silver Beach. And it's really looking at what are we doing about trying to restore basically what we had. We're losing our beach. And it's really a big asset. to, I believe, to Barron County and to this community. So, and St. Joe have some of the same problems with beach in the area. What are we doing to, trying to restore this, so try to get things back to where it was?
You want to tag team this?
Yeah.
All right, so I've gone out and collected a couple of proposals from 2 different engineering firms that the county could engage for design of both short-term and long-term solutions.
Yeah.
I've punted those to Brian. Brian's engaging the Parks Commission. I'm trying to work, or Brian's trying to work to build consensus on what the Parks Commission would like to do. Once we have that consensus, we'll bring it back to the admin committee for further review. And it's my hope to then bring it to the full board for consideration sometime in the coming weeks. Would you agree with?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was it that committee?
Well, one reason I was saying that because they work with the Army Corps of Engineers, I believe they can put that beach back up there. Yeah, I believe that can happen.
Well,
so I don't know if we, what avenues, well, maybe I should just wait and see what comes up.
Commissioner, are you talking about the erosion at the
I'm
south
talking about the
or
road.
the entire
We
beach
lose, they
itself?
said the beach is almost up to the road.
Yeah, that's a high priority area right now.
Yes.
As far as what is the best way to move forward on a temporary and long-term solution.
Yes.
But you're on that committee, so you'll know everything, aren't you?
Well, like I said, maybe I should just wait until they come up with something,
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah,
But that kind of question is really a big concern to me.
What's best, short-term and long-term to?
Well, I think we gotta look at something in the long term, basically, not some, just kind of get us by.
Yeah.
So,
It's my suggestion.
Okay, good. Brian, my question remains, is this an admin issue or is this PHSC Parks issue?
Both. Quite frank, with respect, sir, it's all of the above.
And finance.
It is solidly in the middle of a gray area because any long-term construction project that we pursue, we will need to work directly with the city of St. Joe, not just for permitting concerns, but also for a potential financial partnership. It will need to go through admin, it will need to go through PHSC, it also needs to go through the Parks Commission, and then depending on the size of the project, we may be looking at running some type of borrowing through the authority. Finance Committee is going to have to see this as far as the total construction. It's not an easy one, and that's why we're running into some delays.
Okay, and I guess that would be my observation, because I'm not saying I want PHSC to control this thing, I'm not saying it. I think we've got to get something done very quickly.
Yeah.
i.e. in the next 6 weeks. And knowing how all these organizations and the city of St. Joe in particular, et cetera, work, I think we're under a great deal of pressure to get something done. And I don't know how you're going to engage the Parks Board. Mamie and I will look forward to that. So I don't want this thing to get bogged down. We need a short-term fix to protect Park Street. And then, as Don's saying, there are things down the road that we can consider. But I want to make sure that we got the urgency before the October and November storms hit.
I think we'll put our heads together after we wrap.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay. Madam Chair,
Yes.
if there's no further questions for Mr. Bailey, we do have the final presentation queued up and ready for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So she said,
So Julie is on Zoom?
Hello.
Good morning, Julie Cochran.
Hi, everybody. This is my first one, so I'm sorry. I'm a little awkward.
No, it's not true. It's putting all day, we had a time with our Zoom. So we asked you to come to us however you like.
Thank you. Let me know. Are you guys ready?
Julie just kind of let us know if you want us to change the slide, which we haven't done that for you. And And Ben's got it up here on the screen and I have it on Zoom, so you're covered.
Okay, so I just say switch it.
You don't
So I
need
just
to,
say
you don't need,
switch.
oh yeah, that'll work.
Okay, you can switch to the first one, right? Okay, everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. In case I can't really see you, so I don't know who's all there, but hi, Mamie. I know. I wanted to introduce myself again. My name is Julie Corcoran. I manage the printing department here at the county. I've been here about 12 years, and we are still here. I know with some of the COVID concerns, good news or bad, we still print. So we have been quite busy even through the early months that we were in and out. Our goals for 2021 generally just basically continue to promote and encourage county departments to utilize our services, which is not just printing, not just editing, but also higher end design, quality printing, quality control, making sure that anyone's message that they are trying to get out to the community is efficient and aesthetically pleasing, and basically helps get the message across. The other part that we try very hard to do is to try to live within our means. We definitely are trying to continue to research technology, research digital capabilities, while also kind of starting to phase out some of the older, heavier equipment that requires a lot of maintenance and very expensive to upkeep as we keep moving forward. So we're always researching and making sure we're cutting edge, but is also bringing production costs down when we do that. We try to stock proficiently. We try to make sure that, we continue to work more with an on-demand inventory versus just, buying a bunch of stuff based on volume discount and having it sit. So we're really, really tight when it comes to our inventory. Can you move to the next one? Sorry. Thank you. And I don't know if you are aware, as paper and supplies, mostly paper, continues to rise. Costs continue to go up. Probably during COVID and pandemic, it will probably continue to increase. Even if with us trying very hard to keep costs down and, keep paper affordable, we are going to see some increases. The other challenge that we've had, and this is the big one, is we lost an employee in January, Eric Braley. He had been here for close to 30 years, and he ran a very old press that we acquired in the 90s. And he was set to retire in a few years, and unfortunately, he lost his life, and we had to go onto a fast track of trying to figure out what to do. The cost to employ somebody with his skill set in this day and age, it's an old skill. Our budget wouldn't allow for a journeyman, a tradesman. And the machinery that we were upkeeping, the maintenance contracts were being canceled because of the age of the machine. The parts were becoming harder to find and more expensive. So we were trying to phase out the press and bring in a digital printer for our envelopes. We had already moved all of our NCR to the black and white printer, our copier, which used to be printed on the press. So that just really left the envelopes. And so currently we just, so in the middle of 2020, obviously we had to request additional funding to create this exchange earlier as opposed to later when we had planned, and we couldn't really budget for that. So that was kind of an emergency. So currently we have a new employee starting who has some printing experience, but also has, is capable to use a computer a little bit. So they have more of a varied skill set, and it's not locked into just running a press. So hopefully that will work out well. The envelope printer is up and running. We had some, trying to get some stock in and keep costs low, but I think we're kind of all set to go with that. Can you go to the next one? And thirdly, one of our biggest challenges is maintaining, upgrading equipment. And I think I just touched on that. Our vendors, they want us to purchase new machines with maintenance contracts because they are not maintaining old equipment. The manufacturers of some of our equipment have actually walked away and said, no, we're not maintaining that unless you buy a new one, which was the press and the equipment that came with it. We have other machinery that unfortunately it continues to age. The biggest challenge we have for next year is our inserter stuffer. We do several mailings a year for the treasurer's office, drain. We do animal control. We do a lot of mailings for the treasurer, jury clerk. They've started mailings, and what this machine does is fold letters and inserts into envelopes, seals them, and gets it ready for the mail, and then we send it over to maintenance. Our machine is from 1998. It is very outdated. The maintenance contracts have been dropped. We've had repair people coming in to fix it more often because it's not producing well at all. We were able to acquire a maintenance contract this year. Lots of pleading on my part to try to get us through the year so that we wouldn't spend so much money on fixing it as we were having a lot of maintenance calls. So that's our third biggest challenge, is trying to maintain the machines we have as long as we have, but also, phasing some of these older machines out while bringing in new equipment. And that's where some of our cost lies. Can you go to the next one? Opportunities. We have seen an increase in clients. More entities know that about our capabilities. I think we are trying to expand our reach into other community-based nonprofits, more grant-based clients, and just trying to keep the word out that we can print as long as we're not competing with local businesses. And we're trying, and people who don't have a lot of grant money, the grant dollars, which will probably also due to COVID be slashed more, we provide a valuable resource at their cost. They don't have to spend as much money printing and using up their probably smaller budgets. So that could probably help as more revenue. The machine that we got in for envelope printing, I don't have the actual numbers, but the cost to run the machine and maintain the machine is much cheaper than running the old Heidelberg. So we will be able to see those numbers hopefully here in the next few months, and I can provide that to you as well. We just constantly strive for a high quality product, lowest cost possible, just try to bring in the only things that we actually need to print, and we don't have a lot of bells and whistles, just mostly things that will promote what we can do. So anyway, can you go to the next one? So for the capital request, that what I'm requesting is a new inserter stuffer. As I mentioned, the old one is from 1998, and it's basically an upgrade. I quickly looked into the cost to purchase versus lease, and in this case, the cost was much cheaper to purchase versus running a 5-year lease. So the increased cost would be for this lease as well as the maintenance contract per year, which should be included. Sorry, this is weird for me, so I don't really know how to gauge it. So if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. So as you can see, the materials and supplies, only a slight increase from the 2019 actual. The purchase services and charges is where most of the cost has gone up. And that is due to the new lease on the Interprint, which is the envelope printer I just mentioned, which again was began in May of 2020. That's about $6,900 per year. It also includes the new yearly maintenance contract, which is about $1,200 a year. And the other thing that I noticed looking back on 2018, my general request for equipment maintenance and repair is around $5,000. Again, that is because a lot of the older machinery. 2018, I had about $5,000, 2020 and 2021 proposed are probably around the same, but for some reason, 2019, we used a much smaller amount for whatever reason, whether that was nothing broke that year. So that was hard to get closer to what that was for 2019 actual. So, and then the revenue, I'm hoping to continually increase that. We've gotten some big volume projects from outside. So hopefully that will increase our revenue to cover some of these costs.
Excuse me, Julie, we have a question.
Okay.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Can you explain debt service to me? That's something we rarely see in a budget.
That's paying her off her capital lease that she has.
Yes, I'll let Doug do
So
it.
it's debt service. She's
Capital
making
lease?
capital lease
For
payments.
what?
The two copiers.
That envelope thing, I mean.
That is our large, no, that's actually our color copier lease.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we're in
that's
about our third
That's
year.
a lease, and that's how we account for that,
Because
as
it
opposed
is-
to a purchase service or something.
Because it is a capital lease. We treat, because it's a capital lease, you have to treat it as a capital purchase and then the
Okay.
debt payoff.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, you can go ahead. So this, I just explained it verbally, was the justification for each line item that had gone over, especially the purchase services and charges. So if anyone has any questions or wants me to elaborate, please let me know. So this is the only fun part of the presentation. No, these are just more samples of what we've done in the last year or two. Just showing you the kind of work that we can do design-wise as well as printing. If you compare that to something you've seen in 1998, it'd probably be quite different. This is the kind of stuff we can do. We can do logo design, provide printing consulting when people need to do hats or trophies or whatever. If they call me, I know how to set up the files so that they print correctly. You know, anything we can't print, I can help get the correct file out to whatever vendor you end up using, or sometimes it comes through me anyway. Yeah, you can go to the next one. So you guys can take a look at that at your own pace. I think you have a copy. Obviously we did all of March, pretty much April and May. I think 80% of what we did was signs for COVID for the entire county. And there were quite a few different types of materials we printed for everybody, but it looks like everyone's gotten what they need so far, which is good. We run calendars yearly for everybody, and I'm a little behind. I know Shelley needs them and I haven't had a chance to actually put them together, but we provide all of the calendars for the county so that they don't have to outsource to Integrity or another office supply. We do booklets, we do a laminated calendar. I do just an 8.5 by 11 sheet. We do a daily, mostly for the judges and the courts. So that actually helps, you know, save costs in our department as well. So that's my spiel. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? When I saw when you said you could do things for county commissioners, what does that mean? County commission things or personal county commission things?
Oh, you mean, I think I said community-based, right?
What is a county commissioner? So you can't do political things, advertising?
No, absolutely not. No. I meant more community-based nonprofits and grant-based, and you know, I can do some things for elected officials as long as it's not an election-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what your title of that was.
So all of your business cards, all these notepads that I do, all of that kind of stuff comes from her, so she does all that. And she's gotten the file ready for us when we went out to have something printed with our seal and that kind of thing. She makes it all artwork ready, so.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Julie.
Oh, you're
Madam
welcome.
Chair.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
So Madam Chair, we are officially 9 minutes over our allotted time. So I'm smiling ear to ear right now that we got this very close to the schedule.
We meant to be here.
Start over.
Brian, I'd like to chat with the commissioners someday, if I could.
Yep. So, Madam Chair, Annette needs to speak with the commissioners, and I think that'll be one of the last items.
All right.